This is the Guru Brew question and answer show. This is the first one that we're doing. We're going to get to about 10 questions today. If you have your own question, head on over to thegurubrewshow.com. I'll put a link in the description and leave a question for me, and we'll see if we can't get to it. So let's get started answering the questions. Okay, this is the first question that I'm going to answer in this new series. And a guy named Bill sends it to me. The title of the question is how to set up a touch plate with the Auto Zero Z access in Mach 3. And I've done a video on this. So he says, I've watched your video countless times, but I have a few problems, okay? When it reaches the 3mm touch plate, it stops and then gradually clicks down, approximately 1mm or so. And also, it does not retract. Can you advise me of what I've done wrong? And he also says that he's working in millimeters, not inches. Okay, Bill, let's take a look at the code for that. This is the actual code that I published in the link of the video. So you went in here and you changed everything to millimeters. That's your native unit. And keep in mind, I've set this one up in inches. You are aware of that, but I think your problem is your feed rate, because also when you're going in millimeters, you're also going in millimeters per minute, if I'm not mistaken. And if you look right here, this F4, the F is telling it how fast to go. In my case, I want it to go 4 inches a minute. In your case, it's looking at that F4 as 4mm a minute, which is pretty small. So you probably won't even see it move. It's going so slow. In fact, it might have aired out because it's going so slow. So that's your problem. You need to change this F4 to something in millimeters like you would normally run your machine. There's one more, and you had mentioned that it's not coming up. And that is right here, and it's labeled as F50. I run my machine at 50 inches a minute. And this F50 to you, if you haven't changed it, is 50mm a minute, which is quite a bit. So chances are your machine just couldn't go that far, or that fast rather. So you need to take a look at these numbers and adjust them to millimeters. I know that you've done the measurements, but you've neglected the feed rates as well. So try that, Bill, and let me know how it works out. Leave a comment on this video and we'll see if it helps you any. Okay, on with the next. Okay, let's get on with another question here. Garcia 805 asks, I have a Vostro computer that needs to be factory reset, so that would be a Sony. And he can't go to the repair computer option during startup, and there's quite a few reasons for this, but then he goes on to say, but I need help with is finding the restore option, because what I'm trying to do is get the computer started, because he has a message that says the monitor is not supporting the input. Okay, Garcia, the thing about this is that's a common problem if the monitor cannot handle the resolution that the computer is trying to put out, and you'll often see a message that says that the monitor cannot support the input. So a workaround to doing this is starting the computer in low resolution so the monitor can handle it, and then go ahead and change the settings once you get into Windows. And you can do that by tapping F8 on startup. And you should be able to go ahead and press your power button and then immediately start tapping F8 until a Windows screen comes up. And it will look something like this. This is a picture, just a screenshot. I can't show you because my computer's running, but this is what it will look like after you hit F8. And if you noticed, right on down here, there's one called Enable VGA Mode. And if you click on that, what will happen is it'll start the computer in a low resolution, something that just about all monitors can handle. The computer will start up and you'll be able to see Windows. And then you can go into your device manager or your graphics card settings and then lower your settings down to a manageable amount. And you can look on your instruction manual to your monitor and find out what the maximum is and then just set it to that. That's the best way to handle that. So no need to restore your Sony. Just F8 it on startup, enable VGA mode. That'll get you into Windows. Go to the device manager, readjust the resolution to suit your monitor. You should be all set. Good luck with that. Okay, the next question is from Ramsey, and he says, good day. He says he's seen me using Linux on the Raspberry Pi, and he was wondering if I had any desktops or laptops with Linux on it. He wants to know if I have any favorite distributions of Linux, and would I be willing to make some Linux tutorials and videos. All right, Ramsey. Well, yes, I've used Linux on the Raspberry Pi, really because that was my only option. You know, the thing is written for Linux, and it does a good job teaching kids Python as well as doing little scripts and that sort of thing. To be quite honest with you, Linux is pretty hardcore, and unless you play with Linux a lot, it's tough to get really good at it unless you play with it a lot. Now, I have used two different versions, mainly Slackware and Ubuntu, and I've programmed quite a few web servers and FTP servers using it. And it's a really good operating system to run servers. Once you get it set up, it just runs. You can put it in the corner and it'll just run and run and run and run. It'll never crash. Just top notch. But to use Linux in everyday work, it's too cumbersome, and there's not enough applications to support my needs. When I'm at work, I'm usually writing letters or doing spreadsheets or answering emails or looking at web pages. And I realize that there's applications written in Linux for that, but Windows machines run so much smoother in my opinion. And for me to do certain things like moving files about, the GUI is just not there yet for me. It's not smooth enough or intuitive enough. And I don't use Linux unless I have to. That's actually the truth of it. I know that there's some hardcore fans out there of Linux, and that's great if that's what you're into, and you know, I give it to you. Use Linux if you like it, but for everyday use, it's Windows for me. And would I be willing to do some tutorials on it? If the opportunity comes up where I need to teach some Linux programs, if there's some software that's only available in Linux, or I want to show you how to set up an FTP server or something like that, sure, I'll get into some Linux stuff. I don't have anything planned in the near future, but that doesn't mean I won't do it. Take a look at Ubuntu or Slackware. Those are two of my favorites. And that's it. Okay, Ramsey, thanks for your question. Okay, question number 4. This is from Papa Chango. His question is, back from the dead. His laptop has recently passed, and it's moved into the silicone afterlife. He's pulled the hard drive, and then he's dug out his old laptop from the closet. He wants to know if he can take out the hard drive from his Windows 7 machine and stick it into an older compact machine that had Windows Vista on it, and would it work? Basically, would he be able to make his old compact Windows Vista machine into a 7 machine just by moving the hard drive into it? The answer is no, you can't do that. There's a couple reasons for that, but The main one is the licensing on the Microsoft Windows. What happens is there's a sticker on each of the brands. The major manufacturers have what's called an OEM sticker, and that software is matched exactly to that brand of machine. So if you're trying to take a hard drive out of an Acer and stick it into a compact, it's not going to accept it because that hard drive was made for an Acer. That's your first problem. Even if you were able to get around that problem, which you really can't do because it's hard-coded into the hard drive, is a driver problem. You're trying to put a newer operating system on a machine that wasn't made for that. It was made for Vista, and it has older hardware inside the Vista machine, and oftentimes they do not write updated driver software for older hardware. There's no need to because there's new hardware out, right? So you really can't go backwards. So these are the reasons why. I'm sorry that you can't yell that it's alive and laugh and everything you said here. That's kind of funny. But I've tried this quite a few times and it doesn't work. In fact, I know that HP even is picky on the models. I've even tried to take an HP hard drive that had Windows 7 on it and stick it in an older HP that had Vista on it, and it still didn't work. They even code the model number of the machine. Now I know that Acer and Gateway are a little more lenient and don't have such a stringent controls on the OEM sticker, but companies like HP definitely do. So I'm sorry to tell you that, but you're not going to be able to do that. My best advice for you, Papa, is just to go ahead and maybe take that extra hard drive that you've got and stick it in an enclosure, USB enclosure, and use it as a backup hard drive. You could do that. So thanks for the question. On with the next. All right, let's get on with it. This one's from Pete, and Pete wants to know, is there a way that he can password protect a folder on a Windows 7 machine? The short answer, Pete, is no, but the long answer is yes. Yes, you can, kind of. Other installations of Windows, like XP and a few of the others, they used to have a setting that you could right-click a folder and set the folder to password protected. And then you could put the password that you wanted in there, and then to reopen it, it asks you for a password. Then you'd have to match that password. Since Windows 7, they've done away with this feature, so there's some other things that you can do to get around this. Let's go to my desktop and I'll give you some ideas. This is my desktop folder here, and I'm just going to right-click and I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm going to call it hidden. Now, if you have a folder that is typically just a normal folder that you would make by right-clicking, it's automatically password protected using your Windows login username. If I right-click this and go to Properties and hit the Sharing tab, you can see down here it says Password Protection. It says people must have a user account and password for this computer to access this shared folder. In other words, my logon password that I set in users and groups inside the control panel automatically protects this folder. Unless I'm sharing my account, others can't access this. Now, of course, if they take the hard drive out and start looking through it that way, yeah, you can see it. The solution for that will be to come, but this is one way that you can password protect it, is just to make sure that your account settings for the Windows machine is secured. Unless I hit the share button, others can't see this without my account. Now, if you're sharing your computer with others and you're sharing your account as well, of course they'll be able to see this. One workaround, it's not really protecting it, but it's making it so others can't see it, is to hide it. And you can do that by right-clicking on something that you would like to hide. Go to Properties, and there's a button down here that you can click that says Hidden, and then hit OK. And you see now that on my desktop, the hidden folder is gone. It's still there, you just can't see it. And the normal settings for Windows don't allow for showing hidden files. Now, to find that again, you can go up under Organize here and go down to Folder and Search Options here. Click on the View tab, and there is a button here that you can show the hidden files and folders, and this will show all the hidden ones. Now, if I hit Apply, you can see that my hidden files came back. It's a little bit grayed out to let me know that it is hidden. And if I want to unhide it, I can hit OK, and then I can right click, go to Properties, unhide it, and then like that. Now, if you want to set it back to normal here, you go to Organize, Folders and Search Options, View, and then Do Not Show Hidden Files, like that. So that's a workaround. That's the easy way. Another way is there are some freeware products out there that you can get that will add this capability, but there's nothing native in Windows that allows you to do it. If you want a third-party software, just Google free encryption software for files and folders, Windows 7, and you'll find other things. The other way that you could do would be to use a flash drive. And this is probably the most secure way that I can think of. Most of your brand name flash drives like SanDisk will have built-in encryption in the device. And these devices can be purchased as low as $15 or $20. So instead of saving, sensitive information to your hard drive, go ahead and send it to your flash drive and make sure that you've enabled the security functions that come with this. Usually with your packaging, like I said, unlike SanDisk, they have a built-in encryptor that you can set a password for. And even if somebody gets a hold of this directly, they can't crack it unless they have your password. So I hope that helps you out, Pete. There are some ways that you can work with that. Let me know how it works out for you. Thanks for the question. Okay, moving right along, let's take another one. This is from Following Jesus, and she says, resetting PC for a new user. Her question is, how do I reset a Windows 7 Home Premium laptop for a new user? She wants to still be able to keep all the loaded software. This is a good one. This is a question that I get quite frequently asked, really. When you restore your computer to factory default, what happens is all the programs that you added later on get deleted. And this is a problem when you want to reset your computer, but you don't have all the disk. Let's say you bought a Photoshop program or something like that, and then later on you installed it. Well, if you reset the computer to factory, it's going to go away. The only thing you can do is clone the machine, but the user directory still come back with that. It sounds like she's wanting to give the computer away or sell it or something like that. If you want to really save the loaded software, the only thing you can really do is to make a new account and then delete your account. And that's pretty safe to say that that'll be secure enough. If you want to do that, come underneath the Start menu, go to the Control panel, go to User Accounts, click on the Add or Remove User Account, and go ahead and create a new account here, and then name that account the name of the person that's getting the computer. And then when you're all done, go ahead and delete your own account and any of the administrator and guest accounts that are on there. That way all the information with those will be gone. There will be a pop-up that will ask you if you want to delete this information, and say yes. That's really the only way you can do that besides physically putting the disk back in after you've reinstalled, and really that's not an option for a lot of people. So make a new account, delete your old account, and then go ahead and give the computer away. And if you think of it, go and make sure that you have any shared folders or files that are deleted as well. You can check under the C drive in the documents folder and make sure that there's no shared folders, and if they are, delete those as well. So I hope that helps you out. Other than cloning, that's really the only way. If you want to learn more about cloning, look in my library of YouTube videos and you'll find it there. So thanks for your question. Yep, different shirt. So this is a different day. We're going to keep up with the questions here. Let's move right into number 7. This one is from Relito asking, they're using 3 remote utilities such as Ultra VNC, TeamViewer, and Avast Remote with built-in antivirus. Is it possible when they're using these programs that others can spy on their activity and get their passwords and stuff like that, hack them basically? And the answer is, let's talk about what VNC is first. VNC is virtual network computing, and it's where you can actually control a computer from across the world or whatever using another keyboard and mouse. Typically the way they work is you have a server version which sits on the machine that you're trying to control, and a client is the laptop or whatever you're using on a remote location to control that server. And the way that these work is generally a password is encrypted to start the session, and then once that encryption and the password is accepted, the encryption goes away, and then the rest of the session or traffic is in the clear. So after that password is entered in, generally it goes into a faster mode of just open clearness. And really, if someone wanted to be a man in the middle, they could actually wedge yourself in between you and the session and intercept traffic that's coming through in the clear. They probably won't be able to get your password because that's encrypted, but after the session starts, they could certainly take it if they wanted it bad enough. You know, this is just all theoretical, but that would be how you could do it. A better way, or make sure that your software already includes this, is something called tunneling. And it's where that VNC is put through a tunnel and uses other security like SSL or SSH to encrypt the entire session. And that would be like using a public and private key between the two. The same technology that's used to protect credit card data in a store transaction. Now, not all VNC software is created equally. If you're going to use different products, I would recommend going in and reading what they say about their product individually. I went on the internet and did a quick search. I've covered TeamViewer in the past, and I'll put a link up here if you want to watch that instructional video. But TeamViewer claims that they use full encryption on all versions. This includes the free version, and it's based on 2048-bit private and public keys. So I'm assuming that the entire session, not just the password, is encrypted. So I would say that TeamViewer, from what I'm reading, is quite secure, and I wouldn't worry too much. I also looked up your Ultra VNC that you were talking about, and under encryption, they say that Ultra VNC has an optional DSM encryption that's 100% is secured. The trick, or the word in this whole thing, is optional. You know, is Ultra VNC not encrypting the whole conversation? I would say that they're not, because they're offering an optional DSM, and that's probably an add-on. I don't know the expense. I really don't know this software, but I can tell you that it's probably not as secure as TeamViewer. And then I tried to look up Avast, and I couldn't find much on what you were trying to tell me, but I'm assuming that's pretty secure too, because their actual premier product for Avast is security software. So without seeing the documentation, I really don't know. But you want to look on each product and make sure that it's full-time encryption and just not the password. If you want to do it yourself with free software, you can do the tunneling technique. So thanks for the question, and let's go on to the next. This is Joseph S., and the title of the question, AC adapter. The question, can they go from a 19 volt 90 watt power supply to a 19 volt 120 watt power supply? The answer is yes, you can. In your case, you can. Here's what you do when you want to substitute power supplies, like for laptops or whatever you're using here. The first number is the voltage requirement, and you said that both of them are 19 volts, so you're good. If it was not the same number, it won't work. The second thing you have to look for is the wattage or the amperage. Now these kind of go hand in hand, so you only need to look at one or the other. So in this case, I'm looking at wattage. The wattage for the first one is 90 watts, and the second one is 120. So you're stepping it up, more wattage for the second one. So you're good to go, because electronics only use the wattage or the amperage that they need, and then the rest is just reserve and won't hurt it. So since you're going from a 90 to 120, you're good to go. If you were to go from a 90 to say an 80, that's not acceptable, and it wouldn't have enough wattage or amperage. So again, the voltage must match. In your case, they're both 19 volts, and you must either be equal to or step it up on the wattage amperage ratings. Hope it helps, Joe. Thanks. This one's from Rich. It's titled Bitmap to G-Code. The question, the manual for Mach 3 is old, and it has a chapter on opening a BMP or JPEG, but I hear that is now handled by LazyCam. I need a walkthrough. I can't figure it out. Okay, Rich, sounds like what you're wanting to do is turn a picture or a graphic into a carving. And I think Mach 3 used to, in the olden days, have a simple tool that let you bring in like a JPEG and do like an engraving of it. Nothing fancy, but I think they've done away with that. And you mentioned that it's now handled by LazyCam, which is part of Mach 3. That's discontinued, and even though I have a copy of LazyCam, I looked through it and didn't find it. So I do have a solution to your problem. Let me open up a page here. This is Vetrix.com, and they have two really good pieces of software for taking art and turning it into like carvings. I actually am going to be doing a show on one of their products called VCarve Pro, and I'll show you a little bit here in just a moment. And they also have another product that allows you to do like an etching, and it's called Photo VCarve. And you can do what's called 3D lithopanes. And what a lithopane is an etching that's generally done on like a plastic or plexiglass, and when it's turned into the right light, it magically brings it to like a 3D life. It's really pretty neat. You might want to check out those. Both of these products have trial downloads in them, so you can try them out. The other one that I was telling you about is called VCarve Pro, and here's the page for that. Let me go ahead and take you over to the software and show you. Like I said, I plan on doing a couple full shows about this, but I'll give you a little quick primer. I'm going to create a new file and show you how easy it is to do a quick etching. I'm just going to take the job setup defaults here. And if I go underneath File, you can see I can import and export. Importing, I can import bitmaps here. And I'm just going to take a picture of myself here. This is a JPEG. It also takes bitmaps, GIFs, PNGs, JPEGs. So let's go ahead and open that up. I'm not going to mess with it at all, but I can center it and all that kind of thing. But I'm just going to show you a real quick demonstration. They have a real handy button here that's called Trace Bitmap. And if I click on it, I can adjust using this button here how much detail I want to pick up in my picture. I'm just going to set it up for right about there. There's other settings here that you can play with too to really fine-tune the way you want it to look. Once you get these controls set up, you can hit this preview button here, and you can see that it's already created the vector art. Now I can apply that and hit close. And if I go under layer, I can actually turn off that bitmap layer in the background, so I'm just showing the vectors. Doesn't look like much now, but let's go ahead and make a toolpath for this. This software, VCarve Pro, is really good at doing VCarve stuff. Let's open up a new toolpath here and choose the VCarve. I'm just going to select everything here just to give you a quick demonstration. And you can choose your bit. I'm going to choose the 60-degree 1/4 inch V bit. And I'm going to choose a 1/4 inch end mill to do the heavy lifting clearing. Let's go ahead and calculate the toolpath. You can see I've hardly done any changes to this. It pretty much does itself if you just take the defaults. You can really make some neat art. So there's the toolpath, and we can go ahead and do a simulation of that. Let me put it in a better looking position for you. And we're going to go ahead and preview all the toolpaths. Let's do that now. So you can see that it's clearing out the large areas with a 1/4 inch end mill. And that's useful for using multiple tools. That way, you're not spending so much time trying to use a V-bit to clear out deep areas. So you can see that the end mill has taken most of the bulk of the material out, and now the V-bit is taken over and starting to do the little details. And this is where the photograph really comes to life. Super simple. As you can see, I did very little to create this project, so let's wait for it and see what it's going to look like here. Well, there you have it. Very quality looking product with very little effort on my part. It's truly a piece of art. To do something like this on your own using traditional tools would take you forever. I don't know how you would even get this quality. So anyway, look forward to more retract videos using the VCarve Pro series, and that's what I recommend, is going to the retracts.com website and get their demo software and play with it. Well worth the money. Very inexpensive software. Okay, thanks for your question. Let's go on with the next. Okay, it looks like we're going to get about 10 questions in here today. This last one that I'm going to answer is from Zach. He asked me, does every piece of a PC have a different driver to download? You know, when you install like a new video card and stuff like that, you always have to install drivers to run that. Not every piece needs drivers, but the major pieces, usually the input-output devices, need some kind of a driver, especially video cards, sound cards, and processors need some sort of drivers. So generally what happens is there'll be some generic drivers in all installations of Windows, and even though every piece does need a driver, you don't have to download every single one, because most generic drivers take over, like generic USB ports, generic monitor drivers, that sort of thing. So the answer is yes, every piece needs a driver, but no, you usually don't have to go searching for every one of them. Generally, Windows, especially Windows 7, takes care of most of the work for you. So thanks for the question, Zach. Appreciate it. That'll do it for this edition of Q&A, our number one. Thanks for all that participated. I'm sorry I didn't get to every single question, but we covered 10 in this episode. If you'd like your question to be considered for the next Q&A session, we're going to try to do these every week. So go to thegurubrewshow.com. I'll put a link in the description. Go to the question and answer area and leave your question there, and we'll see if we can get to it. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.